Hello, I'm Silver, and I've been rewatching Mob Psycho 100 while I wait for Season 3. I've been paying closer attention to the characters and how they adapt and change over the course of the first two seasons. In Episode 1, we were mostly just introduced to Reagan and Mob, and we've started to form an opinion about the two of them based on what little we were given. In Episode 2, we're going to get a better look mainly at Mob, so let's get started. Episode 2 opens on Mob, and we're given some more information on him from the narrator. Mob is a second year in middle school, and instead of enjoying his youth, he's been working as an assistant for a psychic for 300 yen an hour. This is definitely a more Mob-focused episode, but we do get some time in the Spirits and Such office to learn about curse dispelling, where Reagan gives people a massage, of course not referring to it as one, to con people into thinking they're paying for him to do actual psychic stuff or spiritual things, but really he's just helping them with their back pain. We also get my first "oh no, he's hot" moment. And though this episode will mostly be about Mob, we also get some glimpses into Reagan here and there, like how he isn't doing just whatever for these massages. He's actually studied up on technique and how to properly give a massage the right way. So he's not really half-assing it, he's really just lying about what he's doing exactly in order to make money. After the curse dispelling, Reagan offers Mob some food, and the two talk for a bit. Mob starts asking Reagan questions, which he finds odd because Mob doesn't usually initiate conversations like this, as he says. And Mob is very serious in his questioning. He wants to know if he's doing the right thing, spending his time with Reagan as his student, which, of course, Reagan's first thoughts are if Mob is bringing this up because he wants more money or because he may have found out that he's a fraud. It really shows how self-centered his thought process is, where as soon as he starts to hear Mob talking, he immediately thinks about him rather than Mob. And we see that Reagan is kind of panicking internally a bit, but instead of following his assumptions, he just pries for more information from Mob. It shows that he really analyzes the conversations he has and tries not to give away his own thoughts before he knows what exactly is being spoken about. And Mob isn't bringing this up because of Reagan. He's thinking about himself and his own youth and how he could be wasting it by working after school. And as soon as Reagan figures out that it has nothing to do with him, he calms down and really dives into discussing the topic with Mob. And at first it seems that he is willing to genuinely give him some advice, but Reagan quickly begins just projecting his own feelings about his own youth onto Mob. And I love how he refers to working for him at Spirits and Such as goofing off. There's plenty of ways Reagan could spin this conversation into working for him as a positive thing and, an important thing for him to be doing. And I think it's really interesting that he instead is fairly honestly calling the job slacking off. Then we start meeting some of our beloved side characters. Some of my favorites are introduced this episode. First, we meet the Telepathy Club, a group of actual slackers who have just lost their 5th member and are now about to lose their club room because they don't have enough members. A really classic setup for a school anime to introduce a main friend group. In the club, we have Inugawa, Kibiyasha, Sarita, and Tomei is the president of the club. We also get introduced to the student council member Tokugawa, but we don't get much on him other than that he hates the Telepathy Club for being slackers. The club is given 2 days to find a 5th member or else they're going to be disbanded, and they spend that time desperately trying to find anyone who will join them. Tomei is one of my favorite side characters. She's kind of brash, and while simultaneously she's very passionate, she's also a slacker. Though she wants to prove telepathy is real and contact aliens and everything, she's not doing anything about it. Instead, she's just kind of goofing off with her friends and talking about wanting to prove these things. This premise in the second episode is really fun, though, because of how the audience is likely going to expect the outcome to follow the usual trope. Plus, the club is focused on an ability that Mob could potentially have or train, So after the club spends some time trying to find someone to join and failing, Inugawa brings them Mob. And we get to see how the school sees him, which Inugawa lists out for us. That he's not in any clubs or committees, he has no friends, and he's seen as the resident go-homer school bum. And poor Mob just agrees with him, and his classmate just outright insulted him as an introduction. Tomei then puts her all into getting Mob to join. She has no difficulty embarrassing herself by trying to play the role of like the cute girl in the club. And when Mob says he's busy after school, Inugawa is shocked he could possibly have any plans. It really shows how the school sees him as kind of a nobody floating around in their school. Then Inugawa is reminded that Mob is an Esper, something he had previously just completely forgot. He just completely forgot that Mob has powers because he's so forgettable and in the background to the people around him. Tomei responds to this simply by telling Mob to stop being a weirdo and join their club. She wants Mob to put off his exorcism job in order to protect her club. She's kind of more focused on herself and her own gain, that she really doesn't care who Mob is or anything about him. All she cares about is having a body to fill a space in her club. And when he's unsure what to do, Mob calls Reagan. And in this phone call, Reagan continues to prove how easily he can read people, even just over the phone. And I like how despite how monotone Mob always is, Reagan can pick up immediately that Mob has no interest in joining the Telepathy Club. Because at first he tells Mob to just join and then come to work. You know, like, oh, just join the club and leave, you know. But quickly after talking to him, he can tell that Mob doesn't want to join, so he tells him not to. So Reagan tells him to just hurry over, and Mob straight up lies to the club, saying that Reagan told him that he needs him right away, so he can't join, he has to go. Then Tomei snatches the phone from Mob, hoping to convince Reagan to just let him join. And as soon as she starts talking to Reagan, he deduces that Tomei is just trying to use Mob. And I think part of it is projecting on, like, oh, a girl is talking to Mob. She obviously is interested in him. She's just using him. But the other part of it is she is, like, he's right. But Tomei and Reagan completely butt heads. And I think it's because they are very similar. And Tomei just quickly comes to the conclusion that Reagan isn't a real psychic. And he, too, is just trying to use Mob, but to make money. And Reagan has no issue yelling at a middle school girl until she cries. He has no remorse for it either. So Tomei's crying, and Mob is quickly swept up by that and doesn't want to see her upset. Tells Reagan that he's gonna join, pretty much because he feels bad for her. Reagan already knows she's faking. Like, he doesn't even have to be in the room to know that she's pretending to cry. And, you know, in order to manipulate Mob. So Reagan goes right back to projecting on Mob, and it's just really obvious that Reagan clearly didn't have a good time in his own youth, and really reflects that in the way he talks to Mob about being young and being in clubs and having friends and stuff. So we get to the exorcism job where Reagan truly proves he has little to no self-respect and will take any job he can get. The two are dressed as high school girls and attempting to infiltrate an all-girls school after Reagan couldn't get permission to go in to meet their clients, which are high school girls. To Mom's chagrin, the security at the school does believe he's a teenage girl while they are confronting Reagan for just being a pervert, which sends Mob into the school to meet the clients alone. It's really obvious that Mob is extremely nervous and anxious about just being there in general, let alone doing this job on his own. And he meets up with the clients, who are Mari and Chihiro, and they're on the roof. And the two are kind of rude to him. They really pick him apart. And while they're teasing him, Mob, you know, he definitely understands that they're being mean to him, but he also kind of struggles with understanding their sarcasm as well. So he's mostly just kind of really anxious and uncomfortable in the situation. And he really comes off as unsure of himself in general, while they're starting to work on finding the evil spirit. But once he starts really focusing on it, he becomes more confident and less brought down by the things making him uncomfortable. The evil spirit that's been inside the school is like a gross, weird, pervy guy. And Mob defeats it quickly, and after that, when the girls are doting on him for destroying the evil spirit, it starts speaking to him, and it really affects him what it says. It tells Mob that they're similar in that even the evil spirit could see how nervous Mob was just talking to girls or doing things on his own, and the spirit refers to it as playing the loser role. And he asks Mob if Mob's living every day to the fullest. And it really resonates with him, and Mob takes time to really mull over everything and think about it, and then he returns to the Telepathy Club. And the members are thrilled when he shows up, expecting him to join them and to fix all their problems. And at first it seems like that is how it's gonna go, that Mob's gonna join the club and make friends with these people, which could open up the possibility of the club starting to actually start working on honing telepathic powers and stop slacking, and that these characters would kind of change from slackers to trying to work hard on something, together as a group. Lots of possibilities for common tropey friendship stuff. But instead, Mob Psycho 100 completely goes against the grain and throws in the introduction of the Body Improvement Club, which is just the greatest group of guys in all of anime, and everyone should and does love them. So when Tokugawa starts asking Mob why he even wants to join the Telepathy Club, and, what reasons could he possibly have aside from just feeling left out, Mob doesn't really know why. He doesn't really have any reasons. It kind of sends him into this, weird, existential crisis where he's trying to figure out what he's doing and why, and what his goals even are, if he even has any goals. And he ends up joining the Body Improvement Club because he doesn't have any interest in relying on his powers. He wants to become stronger physically. And it's, partially to catch the interest of Tsubomi, the girl he likes, but he's a middle school boy, and that is a perfectly reasonable goal for him to have. So at the end of the second episode, we know a lot more about Mob. We know he's an Esper, but he also has little to no self-confidence. He has pretty much no goals for himself. He's just been drifting through life up until this point where he suddenly began to feel like he was missing out. So from this point on, he wants to start improving himself to reach the loose and simple goals he's starting to acquire, which, begins with wanting to confess his feelings with Tsubomi, but before he can do that, he wants to be someone that she more likely would want to be with. So Mob starts out as a really simple character, and starting from episode 2, he becomes more and more complex as he really starts thinking about and analyzing who he is and who he wants to be. So thank you for watching, and I'm excited to get to more episodes. Honestly, I could just keep rewatching this anime forever. It's so good. I'm feeling exceptionally anxious about making these videos still, but I'm hoping they'll get better with time and I can overcome my own issues with self-confidence. But thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!